I want to watch the news.
Are you making headway at least?
This is the news.
Schmack-a-magab, it's time for the only news that matters. And Van Halen, they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame back in 2007. And not only did the band not perform, but the only members that attended was Sammy Hagar and then new wife, Michael Anthony. And Sammy's wife still seemed upset about it. She said, Sammy and Hagar were the only two from the band that showed up. And we weren't even in the band at the time. And it was pretty sad because I turned to my hubby, Sammy, during the show, and I forgot who was on stage playing. And we were sitting at the table and I go, Sammy, honey bunny, shmooky mookie, could you imagine if all of us, if we were all here and everybody got along and we got up there, we would kick the ass out of this thing. It'd be the induction ceremony that nobody would ever forget. And sadly, though, it wasn't to be. Yeah, the topic came up as Sammy's wife was discussing the failed attempt at the Van Halen tribute tour following Eddie Van Halen's death, news of which first came to light in 2022. The reports claimed that Metallica's Jason Newsted was approached by Sammy Hagar to do it, while Joe Satriani was to play guitar, with David Lee Roth also possibly taking part. As for why it never happened, Anthony shared, all I can say is, I'm not going to point fingers. I'll just say one of the ingredients was not, let's say, playing ball with everybody else. And that's all I'm going to say. I'll let you all figure it out, and that's why none of it worked. But Hagar and Anthony will be playing Van Halen tunes again on Sammy's The Best of All Worlds tour, launching July 13th in West Palm Beach, Florida. Yeah, West Palm Beach, Florida. That's the last time I saw Van Halen, the real Van Halen, with David Lee Roth, was in West Palm Beach, Florida. But, no. I don't think I'll be going to West Palm Beach, Florida, which is in my neck of the woods, to see the Sammy Hagar Best of All Worlds tour, because that day I'm going to paint a wall and then sit down, listen to some classic Van Halen, and watch that wall dry. Far more entertaining. And isn't it funny? This whole reunion thing that where they asked Jason Newsted, Joe Satriani, David Lee Roth, Michael Anthony. Who didn't they ask? Let me think. Oh yeah, the guy that's doing, I'm paying tribute to Eddie now. Yeah, he was my friend. He didn't want to be my friend no more after I bashed him relentlessly in the press and in my book, to the point where, hey, let's do Van Halen reunion, but keep Sammy out, because that's the way Eddie would have wanted it. I'm sorry. I don't believe all this crap that there was going to be some tour with Dave and everybody involved. It would have failed, because Eddie would have said to Wolfgang, listen, son, I ain't dealing with this backstabbing prick anymore. I'm just not. That's what would have happened. But we will never know. But the only thing I do know is that after Eddie died, they didn't ask Sammy. Nobody wanted Sammy there. And after I put up that video of Sammy getting the star in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the killer viewers, a lot of them left comments saying, Sammy paid for that thing. They didn't give him it. He paid for it. And then I read that in other places where people now pay for their star and they have to maintain it. They have to give so much money a year for it to be maintained. So Sammy Hagar bought his star. It wasn't given to him. And he's out there giving a speech saying, man, I got this star and I came from nothing. Yeah. But then you got Van Hagar money. And with the Vangina money, you bought tequila and then you sold that for $1 trillion zillion. Now you're bloody rich, because you would have never accomplished that with I Can't Drive 55 money. Impossible. Because if you never joined Van Halen, you'd be opening for Rick Springfield at the fucking Porta Potty Fest. Nothing against Rick Springfield, but it's the truth. Sammy would be opening for Rick Springfield at the Porta Potty Fest if he never joined Vangina. Fact! Sammy Belcher claims he was selling out the same arena as Van Halen was. Van Halen wasn't big till 1984. They were open off arena. All these lies, how he was as successful as Van Halen in 1984. Well, then what happened? What happened after you left Van Halen? Huh? Where's your arena tours? That's been one arena tour Sammy's done after he left Van Halen. But guess what? Van Halen reunited with David Roth, and they were playing the arenas. And they were making more money than he ever did in Vangina. It was the biggest selling tour Sammy Hagar was not part of, but David Lee Roth was. And that's something you will never hear Sammy talk about. All you'll hear him talk about is how successful he was, as successful as Van Halen. But after Van Halen, what happened? What happened? Hey, you should have been headlining arenas when you left Van Halen. David Lee Roth did when he left Van Halen. For a few years, he was headlining arenas. Then it went downhill for Dave. You went downhill the second you left Van Halen. You know? Marching on Mars. March to these nuts. Seriously, what has he done? Where's all this success that he brags about? And he's bragging about it now while he's not selling out arenas. He's talking about, hey, I sold out arenas what Van Halen did. But he doesn't bring up, but you know, after I left Van Halen and Dave came back, they were selling out arenas and I wasn't. I was opening up for somebody at the Porta Potty Fest. And then we have this genius, Joe Satriani, now praising Sammy Hagar over David Lee Roth for thinking about the Van Halen fans. Can you believe this guy? I mean, he has to know the shit that Sammy has pulled on the Van Halen brothers. He has to know that he's public enemy number one of the Van Halen brothers. He has to know all this. But I guess that tequila money, you know, is paying off Joe Satriani to say bullshit like Sammy Hagar cares for the Van Halen fans. He didn't care for the Van Halen brothers. And he's still, Sammy Hagar is still out there bashing Alex Van Halen. He doesn't want to talk to me. He's still going on about that. And Joe is, he's thinking of the Van Halen fans. Look, if he really wants to think about the Van Halen fans, stop playing Van Halen songs. Stick to your Vangina stuff. And leave the stuff with David Lee Roth alone. After all, David Lee Roth is, hey man, David Lee Roth may not be thinking of the Van Halen fans, but I don't see what's so damn wrong with that because his voice is shot. Yeah, it's better off you don't do anything. You know, that whole thing of the reunion with Jason Newsted and all that crap. I know a lot of you out there want to see, oh, Eddie Van Halen needed a tribute. There should have been a tribute show. Nothing will be as good as Eddie Van Halen standing on that stage playing. That destroys a tribute show to him. Hey, it didn't happen. Get over it. I did. I got over it when I found out it wasn't happening. You know, I think about 3 seconds into it, I was like, good. I really don't care. Van Halen will always, I will pay tribute to Eddie Van Halen every day till I drop dead. All right? I don't need Sammy Hagar or David Lee Roth to do it. I don't, because I saw Dave do it, and unfortunately I saw Sammy do it too. It's over. The magic of Van Halen really has been over since the 80s. I mean, 1984 was the last magical Van Halen show. Now, I loved the David Lee Roth reunion. The first one, Dave sounded great. The second one, he sounded like shit. And the third one, he sounded like shit. But Eddie, well, the first show with Eddie sounded like shit. When Dave sounded good, Eddie sounded like shit. But the next two tours where Dave sounded like shit, I never saw Eddie play better. And I've seen the 80 tour, 81, 82, and 84. I saw all those tours. The last two times I saw Van Halen, I never saw Eddie Van Halen play better than that. It was amazing, and I didn't think that was possible. Because Eddie Van Halen has always been my favorite guitar player since 1978. And every time I saw him live, he blew my mind. He was the shit. Then I saw 5150 and OU812 tours, and they sucked. He wasn't really that good. It was flaccid. But, you know, everybody wants some... Everybody loves downgrades. You know, if Eddie lived and there was more Dave tours, they would still be raking in the money. As long as they don't bring Sammy on. You know? But anyway, that's it for the only news that matters. What do you all think about this Careb? Sammy wasn't invited, and he acts like he was. Anyway, I want to thank you all for watching the only news that matters, and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and ring that little notification bell, and like the video. It's good for the YouTube algorithms. So stay frosty, listen to Black Sabbath, and smack 'em a gob.
Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain. For we've received orders for to sail back to Boston. And so nevermore shall we see you again.